Welcome to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I'm Dr. April Moreno, autoimmune wellness researcher and professional helping women around the world to live their best possible lives despite the autoimmune condition. Listen in as we speak on various topics about the autoimmune journey and interview amazing and inspiring women who are living and thriving despite their autoimmune condition. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Limitless Living, the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. I'm Dr. April Moreno, and I'm here to talk to you today about some conferences I recently attended and today's specific theme on intuitive wellness for autoimmune healing. So this month of October, I attended so many different conferences. Well, I guess 3, which is still a lot because each conference can last several days each. And the amount of content, learning information, the number of sessions I went to, and all the information that I've learned over that time has been amazing. And I'm here to share with you one specific topic that I learned about at the conference that was discussed. And this was my second conference of the month. I attended 3. The first one actually was about podcasting. Women and podcasting, more specifically, the Work It conference in Los Angeles, which was wonderful. And then the next conference in particular is the one that I'm talking about today. This was the one with the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. This was a wonderful conference, and I'll be talking more about it. The third one I also attended was for the California Primary Healthcare Association, which was wonderful as well. So they were all quite distinct and different from each other. But today, let's talk about the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine conference, and more specifically, the topic of medical and health wellness intuition. So this was a theme that came up at one of the talks, and I'm branching out into the field of autoimmunity so that we can talk a little bit about this theme of intuition for our own health and wellness, which is so important. Seriously, it is so important. When we are on this autoimmune journey, we are often confused, scared, don't know what's going on. We have mysterious conditions, and many times it can take ages before we even get a diagnosis. We may even get a misdiagnosis if we even get a diagnosis. So it's a long journey of not knowing what's going on. We're not sure of what's going on. The medical community is not always sure of what's going on. So there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion. This topic of intuition is super important. The Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine is a wonderful conference. It is just this great and emerging field where we're learning about these different alternative types of medicine. And what I've noticed since last year even, that I'm seeing more of the MD, the medical community, the clinical community, becoming more and more involved with the integrative health and wellness and medicine field, which has been wonderful. So there have been studies that have demonstrated the clinical effectiveness of mindfulness practices, healing therapies, energy medicine, and then even holistic approaches to electronic health records and health IT, which was wonderful as well. So it's an emerging field. It's going to continue to grow. I believe it's going to keep on growing. We'll continue to see this integrative aspect of things, which is something that I love to talk about quite frequently in this podcast and in my business, in my work with autoimmune integrative wellness. In the conference, we heard the topic of medical intuition. And at the beginning of these talks, it sounded almost like a psychic approach to knowing what's going on with someone else, and this approach to healing and helping someone heal and recover from an ailment or a disease or symptom that's going on in their body. And so at first I was just like, I don't consider myself psychic. I don't really connect to that field of thinking, the sixth sense. But then the more I started to think about it and the more I heard about it at the conference, I realized how much it is part of everybody's everyday experience. It's that inner knowing. It's that intuitive and even empathic level of awareness. It is that quality of being able to listen and heal from within. And then it just really started to connect for me. It started to click, and I started to realize that yes, We all have this opportunity to be intuitive in our health and wellness. We all have the capability of inner knowing of what is going on. If any of you participate or practice yoga, when you're going through an autoimmune relapse or you're going through this beginning part of the journey of this environment, this turbulent situation where we don't know what's going on, one wonderful practice is restorative yoga. And because restorative yoga is somewhat different from all the other types of yoga, there's hot yoga, there's yoga that's like power yoga, and there's yoga that is very physical. But what I love about restorative yoga is that it is just very much a relaxation process. It's an exercise in relaxation, in healing, and listening to oneself. With restorative yoga, there's even more of this level of not being told what to do. Yoga teachers will suggest movement. They will say, okay, now we're going to stand, or we're going to sit up, or now we're going to do a certain pose. But with restorative yoga, I found it so interesting that the yoga teacher basically says, you do what you feel is best for you. Listen to yourself, and if you want to do this exercise to this extent, you can. If you feel like you'd rather just sit down or lie down and be restful, you can. And all of that is part of that restorative yoga journey. So I'm connecting that to this intuitive conversation because I believe it's very connected. So that ability to understand what is going on in the body, what the body needs, the body being able to share and tell a story of what's going on, and even further, the body being able to explain to you what it needs to heal. So with this conversation, this presentation on medical intuition and healing, one important aspect of that was this mind-body healing approach, where there is this key question where this practitioner would ask the client, what do you think is happening? And this conversation came up in different sessions throughout the conference, where someone would say they spoke with the client and the client had a mysterious illness, or the client had some strange, unusual symptoms. And what they found to be very powerful, perhaps most powerful, was when they turned that question around to the person experiencing the condition and asking them, what is it that you think is happening? What is it that you think is going on? And that answer, that information can often be the most insightful information of all. This conversation on intuitive healing, mind-body healing, and intuition is there's just so much there in terms of the potential for us to learn from ourselves and to heal and transform our journey with autoimmunity and negotiating and having conversations with the body in terms of what is happening. And ultimately, it is of utmost importance because of the fact that there will come a point, if it hasn't already come, where the doctor cannot tell you what is going on. There will come a point, if there hasn't been one already, where the doctor cannot tell you exactly what the prognosis will be, and inflated assumptions and dramatic assumptions of your prognosis that may or may not even be the case. There will be a time when the doctor is working with a set of question marks, and the only way you're going to get those answers is going to be from within. There comes a point where we do ultimately have to look within. Medication, clinical practice can only respond to what either you're saying, what you're describing, combine that with what their textbook or what previous cases have shown them. But in a situation with something like a snowflake disease or something that is not typical in many cases, so ultimately there is that combination of what is it the doctor can do for you, and then what is it that you can do for yourself. And that leads me to another topic of self-care, which is probably another important topic for another time, but it does lead to self-care and how important that is for us to understand, nurture, and care for ourselves in a way that no one else can. So that is what I wanted to talk about today. At this conference, it was just a wonderful place where it was an opportunity for people to question clinical practice, question what some types of studies have said and what other types of studies have said. I don't take any specific side. I do have a traditional training in public health, but I am open to this systems approach and the social determinants of health and the full spectrum of integrative healing and wellness so that we can make informed decisions for ourselves on how we're going to improve our health and our lives as a whole. And so that's the topic that I wanted to share with you today. Integrative health and medicine, it's continuing to be an emerging field. It's very relevant. All of us have a place in the conversation. All of us have some level of participation that we can be part of, whether it be diet, nutrition, even mindfulness practices, but even just that understanding of what works uniquely for us. Nobody else will be able to tell us that. We are the only ones who have that knowledge and that insight. So it makes us, it puts us in a very special situation in terms of intuitive knowing and healing for ourselves. So I ask you to consider that question. What is it that you feel today you may need to do to take that further step towards your overall health and wellness in your life? And how can you make that happen? Thank you for listening to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. If you like what you heard, come and follow us and subscribe on iTunes or give us a review. Also, you can join us on the Facebook group, The Sisterhood of Limitless Living, or come visit me on my website, aprilmorenophd.com. Take care.